Back again with my ice sled, and that means one thing: we're going ice fishing. Got even more snow now. It's up over my boots. There it is. There's my light ice sled. I like the smaller one if I can, if it's not going to be too cold. It's a lot easier to drag over all the snow. There's not too much slush yet, but I think after today there's going to be some slush. The snowmobiles have been running around, so sometimes you can get into some of their old tracks and have a little bit easier time of dragging things around. But the plan today is to test out my new underwater camera. I've had a terrible time of it lately. I think this is camera number 4, and I finally got one of them to work. A lot of them you can view properly underwater, but actually getting the video off the camera, it's like they didn't think about that part, and it's either impossible or about 8 steps. And this one has an SD card, so the transfer process is much easier. Unfortunately, they're in a file format that's not compatible with my video editing software. I'm getting a little bit in the weeds, but we'll get to fishing pretty soon. Anyway, it requires me to convert the files into some usable format, and I think I lose a little bit of resolution. In addition, there's about a foot of snow on the ice, and so it's pretty dark under there. You don't really think about it, but you know, it's really dark under there. The fish are basically without any light, so the visibility with the camera isn't as great as it would be during first ice or something like that. Anyway, I'm doing my usual thing, popping holes with my Milwaukee drill. If the snow gets any deeper, I'm going to bring a little pack shovel with me, and that'll just help clear out the area that I'm trying to drill in a little bit better than I can with my foot. But yeah, that drill just flies through the ice. We probably have about 15 inches of ice now. Plenty safe for walking, that's for sure. And I'm always on foot, so no problem there. What I'm trying to do is pick out these little islands of snow that the snowmobilers haven't ripped up. I don't really want to drill right in the middle of their tracks, so I'm trying to find these little islands of snow and try to stay out of their way. And it's working pretty well so far. So I thought I'd start out by fishing one of my new spoons that I picked up. It's a 1/4 ounce Leech Flutter Spoon. I forget the name of it, but it's called something like Firetiger Glow Lightning. It's a bright painted spoon. Looks a little bit like a perch. And since it's so dark under there with all the snow, I thought I'd go with the bright color, the glow color. This is the same one, just a little bit smaller. I think that's an 1/8 ounce spoon. I'm going to start with the big one. So here's the FishPro underwater camera, the one with the removable SD card. When I was first trying to use it, it seemed a little dark to me. Now, I don't have a lot of light today. It's a cloudy day. There's another storm coming in with more snow and freezing rain and ice. But it was a little hard for me to see under the water. I can see the snow just fine. And I found out later by going through the menus I can adjust the brightness. Here I'm just adjusting the brightness on the camera itself. But for me to be able to see on the view screen, there's another menu that you can go through and adjust the brightness. So I will get this all dialed in as I spend a little bit more time with it. And I'm going to switch between the top view and the underwater view as I go through a few different fish catches. So the camera is great. I know you can't see that well right now, but I will switch to the underwater view in a second. So you can watch the fish eat your baits. You can see them clearly on camera, and it just takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. You know, I can tell if they're eating the spoon or eating the split ring or eating the hook, and I just wait for them to eat the hook tipped with worm. So all that stuff, you know, you wouldn't be able to tell that with any kind of fish finder or sonar or forward-facing sonar. It's so detailed because you have an actual visual image of what's happening underwater. I can see which part of the bait they're trying to suck into their mouth. I can see if there's weeds down there. I can look at the weed line. I can tell if the weeds are standing up or laying down or kind of half folded over. I can tell if they're green or brown. I can tell what kind of fish are down there. You know, sometimes you'll be around pumpkin seeds and they'll drive you crazy because they're hard to hook versus something like perch, which are pretty easy to hook. Anyway, the camera itself is probably the best bang for the buck in terms of electronics for ice fishing that you can possibly invest in. Here I am. Got another one going. What's this one? Is that a bluegill? Yeah, that's another bluegill. I had a run of a mix of bluegill and pumpkin seeds for a good long while. They didn't seem to be put off by that big spoon at all. It did take me a couple tries sometimes to hook them, but they're pretty agreeable. And this is what it looks like underwater. Forget about the date. This ice fishing video wasn't shot in July. That's just what the camera had when I started it up, and I haven't reset it yet. There's a bluegill going back down. I've got my camera up pretty high, and so the fish are a little bit hard to see. But you saw one just eat the spoon there and then get free. He's coming back for it. They kind of look like bright green objects underneath the ice. The visibility isn't great unless you have the camera right in their face like that one. That one's going back down after I released them. So that's what I'm looking at while I'm fishing. I can see them coming in, eating the spoon. I can tell, you know, if they're coming at the spoon from the wrong end. That's another thing they like to do. They come at the spoon kind of backwards, and so away from the hook point, and I have to wait till the hook point is in their mouth before I set the hook. Sometimes if you're learning how to ice fish, I think it's almost better to be without the camera and do it by feel. Because with the camera, I often set the hook too early. Even I can watch them. I watch them suck the bait in. I watch them with the hook in the mouth. Oh, that one did a face plant into the snow. Sorry, buddy. And I swing too early. And it's almost better to wait till you feel that weight, or you see the rod tip dip. With the camera, I'm a little bit too fast because I can see exactly what's going on. I see them coming to the spoon. I see them approaching it. I see them suck it in before they even really have it. And they're very quick underwater. You know, they can suck that spoon in and blow it out in half a second. So unless you're really paying attention, they can be kind of easy to miss. And it's kind of ironic, but I feel like I miss less fish by not looking at the camera. But I learn a whole lot more with the camera. So even when I'm fishing blind, no electronics, no camera, I kind of have a feel for what's going on down there just because I've spent so many hours looking at fish through the camera. It really makes a difference. So I learn a lot more with the camera in hand. You can see what's down there. You can see if a big pickerel comes in and scares away all the panfish, which happens a little bit later. I mean, you can see all this stuff down there. But from a strictly fishing perspective, I feel like I miss less fish and I'm a better fisherman overall when I'm not holding the camera. And I'm just focusing on my line and the rod and, you know, feel. That's another pumpkin seed coming up. I got on a good run of these things for a while. They're a bunch of fun. That spoon is a little big for them, so sometimes it takes me a couple swings to actually get them. But eventually I do get them. I think the big spoon kind of helps attract them too. So even if they're not, you know, very close by, they see this big spoon moving around, they can feel it. I mean, for pumpkin seeds, this is quite a big spoon. And so I feel like it has better drawing power, calls fish in from a distance, and that worm really helps to seal the deal. You can watch him eat in my hand over there too, in the side view of the camera. Let's go back underwater though. I want to see more underwater footage. Alright, watch what happens next. I got a fish coming in on my spoon. He takes a swing at it. I miss him. He turns away and runs. But really, he's running from this thing. That's a big pickerel that came in on the bottom part of the screen. The date's kind of in the way. And I'm going to move the camera up in a little bit. Just a few more seconds, and we'll get a better look at how big that pickerel is. But what happens is the panfish do not hang around when there's a 2-foot pickerel staring at him. There it is. So you kind of get an idea for how long that fish is. I'm trying to get him to chase up. He doesn't seem to want to chase. I got my fishing line wrapped around the camera line, so when I'm shaking my spoon down there, the whole thing's shaking, but I don't have time to fix it right now. And this pickerel did a lot of looking, but he didn't seem to want to eat. And that's okay by me because there's a good chance he would have broke me off or cut me off. But once that happens, once a big pickerel like that comes in and kind of spooks all the fish out of the hole, the best thing to do is to move, because those panfish will not come back when that pickerel's hanging around there. They know what's up. They know he's bad news. Luckily, the next hole I went to had all these sunfish down there, and they were just kind of lined up waiting for me to catch them. Now again, the 1/4 ounce spoon is a little big for them. Sometimes it takes them a couple tries. Sometimes it takes me a couple tries. But eventually I do get them, and they are pretty agreeable. I know it's kind of hard to see. The visibility down there is not great right now. But you can sort of get the idea for what's happening down there. They kind of come up and they mouse the spoon. They try to grab the worm off the hook. There's at least 3 or 4 of them now competing over the spoon, and that's good. You know, anytime you can get them like competing against each other, that's always a good sign. That always helps get them to eat. They're much more aggressive when there's multiples of them versus like a single fish. Now look at this thing. He came up and bumped the camera. He's going to do it again. I don't even have a bait down, I don't think. He's going to do it again. You know, whenever they're bumping the camera like that, that means they're pretty aggressive. And I'm out here on a day before a storm comes in. There's another one bumping the camera. And so these fish are pretty fired up. So if you can, you want to be fishing pre-front before storms come in. I know it's kind of hard with work and family and everything, but if you can even squeeze an hour out, that's the time to fish. That one had the spoon almost halfway down his mouth. I still missed him, I think. He's going to take a swipe at the camera again. Super fired up fish. Got another one looking at it. He's going to come up and take a swipe at the camera again. I had another one go after the spoon while that other one was going after the camera. I think I might have got that one because the camera's going all crazy. That happens when I'm pulling one up past the camera line. I can see another one down there waiting to be caught. Here's a fish coming in a little bit higher up, taking a look at the camera. That looks like a bluegill to me. Another one took a swipe at it. I'm trying to lift him, trying to get him to come up. Often if you can get him to come up, you can get him to eat. And he ate the split ring instead of the hook. There he goes. He got the worm that time, and I still missed him. There's 3 of them at least down there now, and they're all kind of competing over the spoon. I can't lift them much more without getting out of the angle of the camera. There, I finally got one. Camera's bouncing around, but you can see some of his friends still down there. I can see the tail of one there sticking around. The camera bouncing is me releasing the fish, I think. He's going to come up and bump the camera, isn't he? Well, maybe he'll just take a good hard look at it. That's what they look like underwater. Should have had that one. I don't know what happened there. He's coming up for it. Coming up for it. Should get that one. Yeah, I did. Every once in a while, even a blind squirrel gets a nut. Bumping the camera, bumping the camera. They're very curious about the camera. You can see all kinds of life down there too, little bugs kicking around, plankton. It's always a good sign. That's what these fish, I think, are eating a lot of in the winter. Or at least it's part of the food chain that they're part of. You want to see signs of life. Oh, I missed that one. He had the whole hook in his mouth too. Let's see, I got two looking at the spoon now. Oh, they're giving me the brush off. One of them's going to come up and eat it. You know what? I might need a little bait, a little more bait on my hook. This is looking a little thin down there. Sometimes small things like that can make a difference. Oh, a fish just rushed in from the side. He's going to eat that. He's all fired up. He's eating the split ring though for right now, not the hook. Come on, fish, eat the hook. Oh, I got another one on the bottom right. See if I can get him to come up. He's being a little camera shy right now. There he is. Don't want to bonk him on the head with the camera. That's never a good idea. One just bumped the camera. There he is. It's amazing. You think it'd be all kind of still. I mean, people come up to me while I'm ice fishing and they ask me, are the fish really lethargic underneath the ice? And sometimes they're a little bit slow. But these fish seem pretty charged up. Anytime they're going after the camera like that, they're a little bit slow compared to summer or something like that. But they weren't lethargic, I'd say. Alright, I decided to switch gears and try something else. A new lure. This is Leland Baits Trout Magnet Head. It's a new tungsten head they came out with a Fishin' More Minnow. And I just wanted to see how they would react to it. It's a pink color, and it's probably a little bit big for these sunfish. It's really more crappie sized. And I just wanted to see how they would react. I got one, but it took a while. Most of them were kind of put off by that lure. I don't really know why, but they weren't responding as well, even compared to that big spoon. Oh, I also got a white perch on it too, and I'm always happy to catch the random white perch, so that was fun. But they seemed not to be as keen on that Fishin' More minnow as some other baits that I tried, namely the spoon with the worm. And that could be just a time of day thing. This one's going to bonk the camera a few more times. It could be just a time of day thing, or a species thing. I feel like that combo, the trout magnet head, the tungsten trout magnet head, and the plastic body on a different day, a different body of water, a different species, that might be the deal. I just have a lot of confidence in spoons, and I know they've been working for me, and so that's what I keep fishing. But I just want to try a different thing. And I did get one pumpkin seed and one white perch that you saw earlier to eat it. But overall, it wasn't as good as the spoon, even that great big spoon. And I know if I switched to something like a 1/10 ounce Swedish pimple, I could have caught more of those pumpkin seeds. But I wanted to have the big spoon to kind of draw in some bigger fish and more fish. So after the Fishin' More minnow, I switched to a Z Viber in the pumpkin seed pattern. Now it comes with a single hook on the back of it, and I tip that with a worm, just like a lot of my other spoons. But this isn't a spoon. It's sort of like a rattle trap or a rip and wrap. It's just downsized. It's quite small. It has a little bit of a rattle in it. Not much sound compared to like a rattle trap or something with a ton of BBs in it. But the fish seem to like it okay. Not as much as the spoons, but they liked it okay. And part of it is an orientation thing. A lot of times they come at the bait from the front and the hook's in the back, or they come at it from the belly and the hook's in the back. So it takes, a little finagling to get them to eat the hook side with the worm. They like to come up and bump it, and I just wanted to see how it would work compared to the spoons. I had already caught a bunch on that big spoon, and I'm not to say that it didn't work, because it definitely did work. I caught a bunch of fish on it, but overall I'd say they like the spoons a little bit better. It's a little bit more aerodynamic. Maybe that's not the right term since I'm fishing underwater, but it's a little more streamlined, and it seems like the fish have an easier time of getting the hook. It allows me to get through some of that ice and slush, and usually when they approach it from the bottom up. I try to keep the bait above them, and so the first thing they see is the worm and the hook, and it just makes it a little bit easier for me to stick them than with the Z-Viber. Now, for the Z-Viber, I have caught some big bass on it, and it seems like they like that micro bluegill profile, but I couldn't get any bass to come in on this trip. What's that? That's something different. That's a perch. You can see the bars kind of faintly on the right. I think I had pulled my rod and I was packing up at this point, but I let the camera run. What else? Oh, I got another bluegill on that pumpkinseed Z-Viber. It seemed like I was catching more bluegill on the pumpkinseed Z-Viber, and I wonder if I switched to a bluegill color if it would be the reverse. I don't know. I bet they eat anything kind of small with a worm down there. Got another one coming up. What's that? I think that is a pumpkin seed. They've got really bright orange bellies. I guess they don't have any trouble being cannibals. I'm just shaking that Z-Viber a little bit down there. Every once in a while, I sort of work it like a spoon, 6 to 12 inch rips. And I'm not ripping it like starting a chainsaw or starting a lawnmower or something like that. I'm really just a quick lift, and then I let it fall on a semi-slack line back down, shake it a little bit, just trying to get that bait to kind of buck down there. Kind of tangled up in my AV cable there, but that's okay. We'll get that sorted out. I'm kicking some snow to make a spot for the camera to sit, because it has a USB charging port or micro USB charging port, and it's not covered with anything, and I don't want snow to get in there. That one's a little bit dark, isn't he? Back down he goes. Right, yeah, so it was getting a little bit late, and I decided to try another lure. This is what they call the glow red Leech Flutter Spoon. You know what? The fish didn't like that at all. I mean, it was getting late. I had snowmobiles ripping around me. It's not really a fair comparison, but they didn't seem to like that spoon at all. And so after that, I kind of packed up and got my stuff together and started the long haul out. It was definitely easier when there was less snow on the ice. Travel's getting a little bit tougher now, but it's not bad. I can still tromp through this stuff, no problem. Alright, thank you all for watching. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Like all my other videos, I'll list all the gear in the video description so you can duplicate what I was doing out here today. Rods, reels, line, lures, all that good stuff. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!